It's hard to say actually. I think, if your business is going to make or break whether you jump on the trend or not, then you know it's too late.
Welcome to the Daily Coffee Pro by Map It Forward, friends. I'm your host, Lee Safar, and this is episode 5 of our 5-part series with Tim Wendelboe. Tim, we're talking about the evolving specialty coffee market. And one of the things that keeps coming up when I talk to people around the world when it comes to specialty coffee is what's the latest trend? And what's the thing that... And this has been an amazing discussion so far, but I want to ask you, this is probably perhaps the darker part of the conversation because trends seem to be the thing that, for me, kneecaps progress in any industry because it kind of derails us from a steady path forward. It keeps distracting people. What do you think the role of trends it has in our industry? Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a damaging thing to different stakeholders?
Well, I first and foremost, I agree a lot with you. I think it's something that holds us back.
Mm-hmm.
My company has never been jumping on trends because we have a very clear vision of where we want to be and how we should get there. Mm-hmm. So we just try to focus on our own business and do whatever we want to do. But of course, you have to kind of interact with trends sometimes because they do happen, and sometimes you need to have a reply. Like, for instance, why don't we have anaerobic 4,000-hour fermented coffees? You have to know how to answer that.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, but I do see, trends can also be a positive thing in terms of awakening interest in the industry. So one trend, when I started drinking coffee, the trend was to put flavored syrups into the coffee, and I didn't like coffee, so for me that was a great thing. And of course, I learned how to like normal coffee now without any additives, and the coffee has gotten better, so it's easier to like as well. But it caught my interest in coffee at least. And you do see now, like it used to be naturals, now it's like this fermented stuff. It creates interest in markets that might not have been that ready for coffee yet. So for instance, Middle East, I know that they really love like naturals and fermented coffees because that has been the traditional coffee. Yep. And when some companies started there a few years ago, trying to only sell washed coffees, I at least what I heard is like people didn't really like it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it didn't taste enough.
Yeah. The traditional way of drinking coffee, Arabic coffee, is that there's spice and there's a whole bunch of things that are naturally added to the brewing of the coffee. So when people started bringing these co-fermented coffees here and other kind of like long fermentation processes, it was a very easy barrier to entry for locals here. So it's seen as something that they can drink all day. Whereas in Australia, I mean, it's not something that's being well adopted.
Yeah. And you do see like other things that I don't really consider a trend, but more like something that has come to stay, and that was what they called hand brewing trend, a few years back. I don't see it as a trend because people are still hand brewing and loving it. So
yeah, it's become a main part of the industry though.
Yeah, but so I have a very relaxed relationship to it. It's just like within our company, we try not to just, for instance, cold brew. We don't serve that because it's trendy. We don't serve it. How to say? People asked us if we wanted to serve it because it became very trendy, and the answer is still no because it doesn't taste good. So I don't care if it's trendy. When it doesn't taste good, we don't do it.
I agree. I just haven't tasted a good cold brew.
And that's my opinion.
Yeah.
And the same with these fermented coffees. For me, they don't taste good. So why should I sell it if I don't like it personally? I don't want to sell it. It's nothing wrong with it. It's nothing wrong to like it. It's just that's not what we want to offer in our store.
And so what do you think, in my opinion, 2024 is going to be a very formative year and pivotal year in our industry. It's usual at this time that people try and grasp for trends to find ways to stimulate their business or create hype, because that's what we're addicted to as a society these days. What do you think the way out of this challenging year is going to be? Is it going to be to lean on trends? I mean, it's not for your business. It's very clear that's not what you do. But as an industry, what ends up happening?
Yeah.
Do we lean on trends?
It's hard to say.
Folks, our first on-demand workshop, How to Become a Coffee Consultant, is now available for you to learn at your own pace, and it comes with a certificate upon completion. Go to mapperforward.coffee/workshops or click the link in the show notes for more details. Support this podcast by supporting our sponsors.
It's hard to say, actually. I think, if your business is going to make or break, whether you jump on the trend or not, then, it's too late. So, I don't really know. I think, to run a good business, you first and foremost have to have a healthy way of running the business economically and have good routines and everything. But also, you need to kind of find your place in the market and a reason why people want to use you instead of other businesses or in addition to other businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of offer something that is unique to you. And the only way you can be unique as a business is if you do something that you really love and believe in yourself, I think. Because if you do it, most likely other people will do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you try to just copy everyone else, you're always going to be a copy,
Yeah.
The second
You're never
best.
going to be a leader.
So,
have you had
exactly.
a trend?
So I think.
Have you had a trend that you've actually liked? Or at least
I'm sure
found
there's
mildly
plenty,
amusing?
Well, I guess the kind of first wave of naturals, when that happened in like 2008 or something.
Mm-hmm.
There was, I remember Joseph Brodsky, who is now 90 plus, but he did some coffees from Ethiopia and they were amazing. And
Yeah.
I still find those type of coffees to be really, really good. But that was something that we really loved and kind of stopped doing for a while, maybe because we couldn't get those coffees anymore. And then we have a natural now, but and that's in kind of the same category, I would say. But yeah, no, it's hard to say actually. We had the clover for a while. That was trendy.
That was trendy, and then Starbucks wanted to kill that, so they bought them all. God, remember those days. Wow.
And then we started with the AeroPress instead, which, for us was a blessing. But at least, of course we have jumped on some trends. I just can't remember them from the top of my head.
When it comes to the way that specialty coffee is evolving, where do you see us by the end of 2024?
Wow. I think there will be a little bit of consolidation in the market, especially in the markets where there has been an over-establishment maybe of roasters and also coffee shops. And that can be healthy because at least here in Norway, you see a lot of people opening roasteries as more like a hobby. So they have a roaster in their garage. It's maybe a 5-kilo roaster. They do have a little bit of volume, but not enough to sustain a salary, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
It's really difficult to make the transition from that to
hobby.
A business where you have to have employees and everything. So sometimes you just see people say, okay, I'm not going to do this anymore, and they sell the roaster and that's it. And that's fine, But you also see some others where, for instance, now we had a big customer who called us and said, we had just been bought by a bigger group and we need cheaper coffee. And then I literally told them, you've come to the wrong place. We don't sell cheap coffee.
Nice.
So they're going to stop being a customer. And for us, that's kind of okay because, it's a lot of volume, but it's also a lot of work. So we will get some more capacity when they disappear that we can focus on something else. So we just need to kind of have a plan for how do you if you're losing business, you need to kind of make a plan to how you're going to get it back. And sometimes, scaling down is not bad because
less risk.
Okay, we can produce less, but we can have also less employees. Of course, we don't want to fire anyone, but during a year when you run a coffee business, there's normally a person that quits because you have students working for you and stuff like that. So you just have to adapt, I think. And so it's hard to say where the industry is going because I don't know industry everywhere. But one thing is for sure is that it will probably continue going a little bit downhill when it comes to quality, unfortunately. And because of that, I do see that that's a sign that something is not healthy, and it needs a little correction in the market.
I hope that this year doesn't turn out to be the year that I think it is going to be ahead. I hope that I hope that I've got this wrong. But I agree.
What do you think?
I think that we're going to see a lot of delayed pain bear fruit now. I think that a lot of people who have been, building their businesses on credit and not taking responsibility for paying down that credit. I think that, with the collapse of companies like Mercon, we're going to see a lot more of that. I think that climate change is really going to impact a lot of what's happening, and we're going to see the consequences of that start to really shine in a negative way in the industry. I think all of this is really great because it's going to hold us accountable for a lot of the language that we've been using over the past decade, and now we're going to have to show up for that language. And I think we're going to have to fix the problems that we say that we've wanted to fix. So I think it's a wonderful thing. But I do think that what you're saying about consolidation is absolutely going to happen. And that consolidation is going to come at a very cheap price because a lot of businesses are going to be forced to go out of business, just like what happened with Mercon. And unfortunately, the pain points that are going to come from that are going to rest on the producer because they're not going to have as many businesses to sell coffee to. And there's going to be a lot less competition in the market. And given that there's a lot less competition, we're going to have the producer get screwed with regards to pricing. The positive side of that, I think, is that the producer is going to have more power now, and they're going to turn around and tell the consuming countries, they're going to tell them where to go, and they're going to start seeing or be inspired by the companies that are building these little economies within the producing countries of cafes that are popping up, and they're saying, well, screw it, I'm going to try this. And I think that if we can start to see a lot more of that happening, we can start to see producers be empowered. And now that we're shifting the dynamic of where the power is. And I think we're going to start to see a lot more of that this coming year. And who knows where we go by the end of that. I think that this is the year we all end up having to take responsibility for the way that we participated in the supply chain. And that's an exciting thing for me.
Well, I hope the change will be positive for producers for sure. Because it never has been.
It never has been.
Not in the long term.
And I think that this is going to be the year where we start to see that tide shift this year and next year. So 2024 and 2025 is where I start to see that the pain points will start to revert in the direction of the producer, provided that they jump on this wave and ride this tide and say, no, given that consumption is, I think, at the point where there's been recent reports where they're saying consumption is outstripping production. So this does give the producer more power now. So let's hope that enough people can support the producers in the way of helping them ride this wave so that we can redistribute some of this power across the supply chain and see where it goes. That's what I hope will happen this year. And I hope that there's enough people like you who have farms and have relationships with enough producers that turn around and start saying, hey, we should start thinking about cultivating this local community of coffee drinkers and start teaching people in coffee producing countries how to consume specialty coffee. Just like they're doing in China.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that story I've heard for many years as well. Like, if only the Chinese drank one cup a day, cup of coffee a day, or in India, for instance. So I know it was a dream for the Coffee Board of India that all Indians drank coffee, because that would solve all their problems.
And they're starting to do that, right? Like they're starting to. This conference that was at World Coffee Conference, it was massively inspiring. I gave a workshop thinking that not so many people would attend it, because I didn't think that there were that many people that were opening cafes. It was one of the most attended workshops. There was over 1,000 people that came to this workshop that wanted to understand. Wow. Yeah, it was massive. And none of us, well, I certainly didn't expect that many people would come to my workshop. And it was about creating community around an industry and how to actually establish the industry correctly, making sure that the front end of your innovation S-curve is kind of flat, so that you are contributing to establishing a drinking culture as well as a lot of businesses. So I'm really excited about the fact that we're about to go through some serious pain points, but I think that the winner out of this is going to be the producing countries.
Yeah. I think, to be honest, I think you need a little bit of both of export and internal consumption, because like you see in Greece, for instance, it's really difficult to get Greek wine outside of Greece, because they drink all of it. But
they're drinking their troubles away.
Greek wine, but the problem is the price of Greek wine is quite low. Even if you compare to the quality. So in order to kind of put some real value to the wine, you kind of need a little bit of export as well to see what people are actually willing to pay for the wine. Yeah. So it's complex. I'm terrible at predicting the future, and I always fail when I try to predict something. So,
which is why I'm hopeful this time, because I'm predicting that it's going to be dark. So I hope it's going to be a different direction to that. Tim, thank you. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thanks for being the first conversation for 2024. Where can people find all of your details, the socials and the website and all of that?
So Tim Wendelboe on Instagram. I guess that's where I'm the most active. I have a podcast called the Tim Wendelboe Coffee Podcast. YouTube, awesome. Tim Wendelboe as well. And of course our website, timwendelboe.no for Norway.
Awesome. Links are in the show notes, folks. Make sure that you go and check out their coffee. It's amazing. Just saying. Will you do us the honor of signing off this episode, Tim?
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for a great conversation, Lee.
Thank you, Tim.
Peace, love, and peanut butter.
Have an amazing rest of your day, everyone. Bye. Thanks, friends. If you enjoyed this video, here's what you should check out next. Consider supporting Map It Forward on Patreon, and be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell before you leave.